Hi, everyone. It's great to see so many people here. We're going to have some very insightful presentation later by Dr. Demirtas on the macroeconomics. So I will try to be quite brief today. Talking about the GDP growth projections for the next year, we see that IMF expects the world economy will continue growing at about 3% in 2023 and 2024. The slowdown will concentrate in the advanced economies, where growth will fall from 2.73% to 1.5 and 1.4%. By contrast, the growth in the emerging markets and developed economies is expected to accelerate from 3.1% in 2022 to 4 and 4.1% in 2023 and 2024. Overall, the global economy continues to gradually recover from the pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The COVID health crisis is over. The supply chain disruptions have returned to pre-pandemic levels. Energy and food prices have come down sharply from their war-induced peaks, allowing global inflation pressure to ease faster than expected. Nevertheless, there are signs that the global activity is losing momentum. The government's tightening of monetary policy has brought interest rates into contractionary territory, as you can see on the graph. So this is a Fed reserve rate against inflation rate. You can see now that inflation is expected to be under the interest rates. The same in Europe. Only on Thursday, European Central Bank announced increase in the interest rate to 4%, while at the same time projecting inflation at 2.8% for the next year. This has started to weigh on economic activity, slowing the growth of credit to the non-financial sector, increasing household and companies' interest payments, and putting pressure on the real estate market. Lending growth has sharply slowed down. Another risk factor in the world economy is a strong dollar. According to the recent research, the United States dollar strengthening last year to a 20-year high has major implications for the global economy. In the emerging markets, a 10% dollar appreciation decreases economic output by 1.9% per year, and it lasts about 2-3 years. In contrast, the negative effects in advanced economies are small in size, at about 0.6% decrease, and they disappear within a year. So without a strong dollar, if we have a look at the IMF projections, without a strong dollar, we would have seen growth in emerging economies of about 6%. So we've lost 2% growth in 2023 and 2024. That's a lot. If we look at the GDP growth projection per country, the euro area is still reeling from the last year's sharp spike in energy prices caused by the war. It's set to decelerate sharply from 3.5% in 2022 to only 0.9% in 2023. German economy entered the recession in 2023. Its economy will decrease by 0.3%. By contrast, many emerging markets and developing economies are picking up, with Asia leading the growth with 5.3%. From the big countries, the fastest growth we will see in India. It's expected to grow at 6.1% this year and 6.3% in 2024. If we look at the construction sector, in Eurozone, construction is quite weak, but it's not really decreasing that much. Activity is pretty stagnant. We expect the construction to be about 0.2% month on month in May, and it continues all the summer about the same level. Buildings up 0.3%, civil works 0.1%. This runs contrary to the market expectation, to how people perceive the construction. So according to the IHS market Eurozone construction PMI, it decreased to 43.5% in July from 44.5% in June. So people expect further contraction in Eurozone, which hasn't happened yet. Looking at USA, situation is much better. Spending, at least on the paper, spending on private non-residential structures, factories was flat, but there is a boom in the single-family housing. There are tentative signs that the housing market is improving a lot. Overall, USA is expected to deliver the historical record number of units in 2023-2025, after already very healthy construction growth in 2020-2022. This is not spoken enough, but it seems that the USA construction is doing very well. Looking at China, we're going to have a detailed presentation on China later, but Chinese real estate activity, as you all know, is declining, and it's prompting government to support the sector with all kinds of incentives. So we already have this year, the government introduced a range of measures to support the sector that provides 30% of the economy. Firstly, they eased rules on the mortgages in the summer, allowing special conditions on the first-time mortgages, and they decreased the interest rates. Local governments removed many administrative restrictions in many cities, and the interest rates in China are the lowest in 15 years. So it goes completely against the policy of the United States and Europe, and it's very interesting to see how it's going to develop. But it seems, despite all these measures, the buyers remain skeptical, and the new floor space sold was down 22% year on year. So it seems that the latest development, the central government turned to the typical Chinese tactics we've seen many times before. They requested the local governments to issue a record number of bonds in September and to invest the proceeds into infrastructure construction, starting from October. So far, my understanding is they've issued about $513 billion worth of bonds in order to invest into construction. We have to see whether more bridges, railroads, and airports will help to turn the Chinese construction around. India. Based on the secondary indications, cement production, etc., the construction in India is gearing ahead with 8 to 9% annual growth. I think we should put much more attention to India than we do, because it seems to be that's where the growth is coming from mainly in the long products industry. Okay, moving to the world steel production. Latest information is available is only from July, unfortunately. In 2022, the world steel production decreased by about 6%, approximately 120 ton down. Based on the 6 months World Steel Association numbers, in 2023, we expect a further decrease of about 20 million tons. The biggest production cuts have been implemented in Europe. EU has decreased steel production by about 10%, and the rest of Europe by about 11.7%. In Northern America, we see decrease by 3.5%, and in South America, 7.4%. If we look at the country per country, from the main steel producing countries, production increased in China by 2.5%, and there are some signs that they accelerated production in August. Iran, production increased 4.1%, Russia 2.8%, and India 9% this year, based on 6 months numbers. In Turkey, production seems to have decreased by 13.5% this year. Very important topic, export from China. Latest information is also available only for July. The good news is that Chinese exports are not increasing. The bad news is that they, provided that nothing changes until end of the year, China will be exporting at just below record levels of 2015-2016 at the annual rate of about 85 to 90 million tons. Very important to note that China export this year mainly flat products. Long products export is not significant, and it shouldn't affect the long product market so much. Okay, moving on to the global long products consumption. So what we see is that in 2022, consumption of steel long products decreased by about 4%, approximately 37 million tons. In 2023, we expect a further contraction of about 5 million tons or 0.5%. Bad news for all of us. Looking at the consumption per product, at the product mix, the decreases seem to be split among all products, but rebars will maintain about 411, 420 million ton a year. Region-wise, there are no big changes. Small increases in CIS, Eastern Europe, and some decreases in Asia, but nothing significant to talk about. That's about the split per region and consumption. Talking about the price movements, as you all know, since our last conference in Barcelona, the prices continued sliding down on low expectations of the buyers. Then prices rebounded slightly at the end of August, beginning of September, on strong raw material prices. But the stocks are universally low. From now on until end of the year, all the purchases will be for the actual demand in the construction, which is not that bad. It's not as bad as people think. And it seems to be that there is not much room for speculation from the buyers. People seem to buy against actual projects. And so we will see what happens. But I would say that it's more optimistic than people think. On the spread evolution, 2023 so far has been brutal on the steel mills. The spreads are at the lowest levels since March, April 2020, at the height of pandemic. Frankly, mills are at the wit's end, and there is no more space to go down. We will see how mills will manage that, but I don't think we can expect further spread decreases. Okay. Looking at the sum up outlook for long products. Macroeconomic situation is getting worse in 2023. We all feel a global economic chill this year. Economic conditions in China worse than expected for this year. On one hand, China continues to export all types of products, and their current account surpluses, $68 to $80 billion per month, are the highest in history. But overall volume of trade, export and import, is decreasing. Another very important development, China became this year a net car exporter, first time in history. They are set to import 50 million ton cars and export 80 million ton cars this year. It's a major change in the world trade. On the other hand, the very slow-moving financial crisis keeps claiming more and more victims in China. We all hear about the Chinese developments. More and more of them are having problems. Now it seems to be some insurance companies started going under. In September, many banks were forced to issue bonds as well in China in order to recapitalize. So these financial issues, financial contagion is spreading everywhere. The government reacted quickly with the infrastructure spending, and so we will see how that will turn out, but it seems that until end of the year, Chinese steel mills will be busy. The blast furnaces are running at the utilization rate of 97, 98%, according to ME Steel, which is extremely high. Next, very important factor is inflation. So high inflation is reducing demand for steel worldwide. Central banks in the USA and Europe increased interest rates to fight it, and this affected the market very badly. Lending has gone down, interest payments went up, the stock financing became expensive, the trade slowed down. As I said before, the interest rates now in the contractionary territory. We will see what basically will happen. Very important decision. I'm sure Professor Demirtas will talk about it. Decision in autumn in the United States, where the Fed will increase the rates. It will affect all of us. Again, next factor, very important factor, strong dollar. As I said, it's affecting the markets in the emerging economies. Situation in Europe. Next important, European economy remains very weak. Europe is carrying the economic burden caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Autumn is coming, winter is coming, the energy prices are expected to increase again. The borrowing costs suffocate the demand in Europe and reduce demand from developing countries in China, for the European exports. Germany is in recession now. Demand for rebars and wire rods in Germany this year so far decreased by 17%. Raw materials. Raw materials for steel making, in our opinion, do not reflect the weak demand for finished products. New importing markets open for scrap. China appetite for iron ore remains strong, but there is no reasonable explanation why raw materials remain high. I think we should talk more about it. And to sum up, demand for long products this year seems to be much weaker than the supply. Input costs are expected to remain at high levels. Mills margins have gone down substantially. On the positive side, we expect some rebound in demand in autumn because stocks are very low. There is strong construction activity in Northern America, India. China will be busy building more infrastructure. We have had a very rough 2023, but hopefully the situation will get better before Christmas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex. Any questions from the floor? Michael, can we have the microphone for Mr. Satterdahl?
I have a question about the Black Sea billet prices. A lot of companies read that information every week and they adjust their thinking accordingly. But the price is not as important as the volume. And so in your view, what is the volume of Black Sea origin billets being exported on a monthly basis?
Thank you, Michael, for putting me on the spotlight on that. But according to what I understand, the export of billets from Russia has slowed down considerably. I would be very interested to see the Turkish import statistics on Russian billet, but I would say it's in tens of thousands of tons, not in hundreds of thousands of tons of what it used to be.
So it's irrelevant for the total.
I believe it became irrelevant, but I would like some Turkish colleagues to comment on that.
So do we have any Turkish comment on that?
Any comments from our Turkish colleagues about the billet exports from Black Sea ports to Turkey, about the quantity, so on?
I agree with Michael. I believe this is, it's not a market indicator anymore. It's not decided, the Russian export of billets is not deciding anymore on the billet price. It's not.
I can confirm that the quantity has gone down considerably, significantly. Well, we cannot even hear any bookings lately. Obviously, we still wait for the official stats to come out. But I think your opinion will turn out to be true when we have the stats. Of course, it's an interesting issue that we still follow the price series, even though there are not many transactions around. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Gordienko? No, thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you very much.